I am petrified to be that seen or to make anything available, partly because of certain people in my life that are going to be very upset. But the reality is they're always upset with me anyway. It does not matter. And I have kept myself small to keep them comfortable my whole life. And I'm just realizing how, if my freedom is confronting for people, that's okay.
Yeah.
There will be people that have eyes to see and ears to hear, and they will see my divinity. And because they see that, my hope is that I just reflect the goodness in them.
Guys, just a quick word about this interview. Nicole was actually recording this. She's overseas. I'm in Austin, Texas, and we were having some technology challenges. Zoom was not providing us a really good, reliable connection. Unfortunately, I normally record these on eCam. We couldn't even get that to work. And so we wanted to push forward and do the interview, but you're going to hear a little bit of audio, a little bit of challenge with the audio. And because of that, you're going to have some breakup in the interview. But Nicole's stuff was just so good. You know, we thought about re-recording another day, but there was just so many good nuggets that she included here that I just said, let's move forward with it. Everybody will understand. You know, technology sometimes isn't our friend. And so we appreciate your patience and understanding in this, but the interview is fantastic and she's an amazing individual. So I can't wait for you to dig in and listen to this. What's going on, guys? Hey, I am super excited to introduce you to Nicole Casanova. Nicole is somebody that has been a contact of mine on Facebook for a number of years. I have followed her travels with great interest. She is a unique entrepreneur offering some very incredible experiences, not only to help entrepreneurs really gain the benefit of where they are right now, but where they could be tomorrow. And the value that I think that she brings to the table is when she works with clients, she is just so great at helping them get connected to high worth, high valued network connections that she's gone out of her way to make. She has this extraordinary worldwide network that is pretty, I mean, it's just impressive. And she is a mover and a shaker. She's got her hands in a lot of different pies. She is the consummate entrepreneur. So I want to just give you a really quick review of her bio. Nicole is a visionary leader at the intersection of the sacred and the innovative. Invites you to journey with her towards freedom and sovereignty. With a trailblazing career in media, advertising, and tech, Nicole has empowered female founders, fostering over $200 million in growth. But her true wealth lies in the relationships she's nurtured with exceptional individuals worldwide. Through her venture, including The Conspiracy, a community leveraging relationships for good, they tap into the transformative power of unity and connection. Nicole's, quote, last Casanova love letters, unquote, chronicle her personal journey of radical self-love, reflecting her ability to manifest magic through words. It's great. I've watched them. These videos are super enlightening, and you'll enjoy them. She believes in the infinite potential of every individual's unique expression. Nicole is here not just as a mirror of your divinity, but as a catalyst for your empowerment. I love that. And I can tell you, having interacted with her, she finds a way to pull that out of you in such a way. So her thing is, let's shift the game, the power, the people, and breathe together. You can learn more about her at bio.site/Nicole Casanova. Casanova spelled with one S, Casanova. So with no further ado, let's jump in and meet Nicole Casanova for the Ripple Effect Podcast.
I'm not. I mean, I live in Koh Phangan, Thailand. All right, so you're already recording.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll edit this out, or we can include it. It's hilarious. So I love it.
You can include it. Okay, so yes, I live in Koh Phangan, Thailand. I'm on an island outside of. You have to take a boat to get to where I live.
Wow,
which is great.
That is. How did you end up there? Oh, the boat going by. Yeah.
Not gonna work unless I do this, huh? Right? This is the
no. You sound fine, even if you don't want to hold it. Yeah, your audio is coming across good. Okay. Yeah, it's coming across really good.
I was here in 2000. I went diving in 1999 in Koh Tao.
Okay.
And then in 2006, I came to this island for my honeymoon. And then in 2021, my ex-boyfriend before my husband of 17 years or almost whatever, a long time, he was like, you should come here. There's no COVID. And it is beautiful. You'll get to go to co-working. You'll be able to go to yoga. I didn't understand what he was saying. He kept saying it for like months. He was like, there's no COVID. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I came in January 2021. I did a 16 or 17 night quarantine in Bangkok.
Wow.
And I came, it was like this vortex of goodness, of just magical beauty, self-expression, and lots of really good things. And I'm incredibly thankful to the country.
Oh, wow. And so you've been there ever since?
Kind of. Last year I left. I went back to Miami for Bitcoin 2022. I spent the month of April in Miami last year, and I was in the States for about 6 months. I had been living in Boulder, Colorado for 20 something years, like 23 years. I packed up a good portion of my things. My stuff was very scattered. My intention was to move to Miami because I'm from there. I have aging parents, and because venture capital and all of innovation and all of that was happening down there. It was like the place. And so that was my intention. I moved a whole bunch of things there. And then I came back to Thailand and stuff. I did go to Australia in December. And then I came very close to going back for Bitcoin 2023 in May. And I decided to stay instead. It's
well, I mean, it sounds like a great place to live.
I could make. Yeah. I want to hear about, so I can talk to you about my life and all. I'm really curious about how have we not met if we're both super connectors? Like we have this joy for putting people together, and somehow we've not had like a real in-depth.
I know it's kind of crazy. I think you play at a much higher level than I do. Honestly, I said that in my intro of you. I mean, you really, the circles that you run in and the types of folks that you work with is just really, really impressive. But how we didn't connect when you were here in Austin, I have no idea. But clearly, next time you're stateside, we have to remedy that for sure. We have some magic we could co-create without question.
All about creating together and magic with a K.
Absolutely. Well, so let me dive into this. First of all, welcome to the Ripple Effect podcast. I'm so grateful you're here. Sorry we were having a little bit of technical difficulty, but it all works out the way it's supposed to work out, right? That's I think your attitude and my attitude. I am super intrigued to get our audience to get to know Nicole Casanova, because Nicole, you have such a rich, amazing life, and you're doing some things that I think people can look from afar like me and be very envious of. But give us a little bit of your origin story, a little bit of your background, and then sort of how you ended up on the island that you're living on right now.
Oh, my origin story. This was something I used to have down because I used to have half-hour phone calls and I used to talk to people all day long. So I was like, the condensed version, I'm from Miami, Florida. And I'm going to skip over all of the family stuff. Just know that it was incredibly formative. And it's the reason for a lot of what I'm focused on currently. I have always been interested in connection, self-awareness, and personal development, tech and innovation. I did my master's thesis in 1995 on targeted marketing on the web. My dissertation committee wanted to fail me. They were like, you're gonna have to go door to door and tell people to be on this World Wide Web thing. And I was like, go ahead, fail me. And I went snowboarding for the next 2 months. Then I went to San Francisco for 8 years, and I worked for 3 startups that went public. Some people might have heard of them. I was employee number 3 at Realtor.com, what became Realtor.com, Lycos, which was like one of the first search engines. I was always interested in behavior change. So selling advertising, partly I was seeing how you can incent behavior. I stopped that and I walked away to create something of more purpose. I had started learning that our thoughts create our reality. So I created a game called Shift, the 5. That content was co-created with a number of sources, very much based on A Course in Miracles. And then there was content from Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Byron Katie. The idea was that you could see what was driving your behavior and keeping you from your full potential. The whole point was to move from fear to love and drop our defenses. Our defenses being what we do, not what we are.
Love
now
it.
I've learned so many other components of that, but that was back in the day. And I got to work in the self-help industry for years. I'm going to skip ahead. I've been in startups for 20 something years. I was very involved in the startup community in Boulder, Colorado, which is kind of where a lot of all of that started, because that's where Brad followed. And so very engaged with hundreds of startups, and still like dealing with the trauma from what it was like to be in venture capital and deal with all of that forever.
That's a great way to frame that too. I mean, having been an entrepreneur in the startup world, yes.
It's one of the last things I'm like really working on, is like getting that out of my nervous, having been exposed to so many people, because they're dealing with like no runway, and then like I almost like can't even talk about what the experience was. So one of the things that I did was I was co-founder of something called the Vinetta Project. It's still around. It was for women-led high-growth tech companies. Help them raise over $200 million. This was back then. These women were having to pitch like 150, 200 times. And these were women that had like multiple exits and like big companies, like selling, like taking one, her CFO had taken Remax public, and she sold the last company to Oracle. Like big stuff, but still like the amount of effort and work that the women were having to do. And then they were giving up all this equity. They didn't know. So I was focused on that for a long time. I've been in every connected TV. I'm putting YouTubers and other people on Roku and Amazon, and I've just been involved in a lot of stuff. And in the more recent years, I got really excited about many components of decentralization. So I could go down the rabbit hole of specific areas in Web3 that I'm a proponent of, things like self-sovereign identity, something called DarkFi, which is like zero. So I have the ability to get incredibly geeky with tech. And because of that, I feel like I'm lucky, because I get to hang out with like young entrepreneurs all the time. They think I'm cool because I can like and then I also like have a very big like spiritual and I don't even know if the word is spiritual. I have a belief in my sacred divinity, and that is something that I have been really, really focusing on, is self-care and loving myself. And when we spoke about me being on this podcast, I had a hesitation, because I was like, well, I don't know what to talk about, because if you had asked me 6 months ago, and wasn't even 6 months ago, I was raising money for a next tech company called The Conspiracy. The word conspiracy means to breathe together.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a referral engine for super connectors that would allow us to cross-market our deal flow, understand who was in the network, and use things like blockchain to track relationships to fruition and show the impact of connection. Because I'm all about people like you, right?
Yeah.
Like we're the ones that are creating all these communities. There's someone like us that should be in every city, every company, everything. We are a public good.
Absolutely.
And often not valued. And so that was what I was focusing on. We were going to do an NFT for membership when I was in Miami last year. And then one thing after another, the American legal system, it was just like, nope, this is going to be a commodity. You can't do any of these things. You're going to have to raise money the old school way. And my back went out, and I was like, not do it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The last thing I'm going to do is go venture capital. I can't do it. And I had convinced my CTO to move to this island. So he came here, and he's here on this island. And when he got here in January, ChatGPT and AI was like blowing up. And I was hesitant about what we were going to build, because I wanted the AI to understand love. I wanted it to feel the dopamine hit that we get when we put people together, when we have an understanding of like, wow, I know that person's working on this and this, and oh, actually, this isn't their, like, I know 5 reasons why you guys are going to totally hit it off. You're going to love each other. This is the perfect person for you on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's magic. And without that understanding, for us to be making available like the world's most important Rolodexes, it felt like everybody was concerned for years. As I was talking about it, they were like, this is going to be potentially problematic, because we had a network of 1,000 super connectors, people like me that just like, they're running all the different networks. And so the people that they know are like having access to that is potentially kryptonite. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now, and then when you look at the AI today, where it can take my voice in 4 seconds and recreate everything, it
Yep.
can take my persona, but know, because we'd be training it, how I want to make the connections, all of that. So I wanted to step back and I wanted it to understand why, and I wanted to focus on love. So I've been kind of playing around on other things.
Let me ask you a quick question on that though, before you move on. But from the, you know, the conspiracy, the approach, and I love how you explain it, in that conspiracy has a sort of a negative connotation to it, right? And for us in actually the connector world, it's actually a really good word, because you're conspiring for good. You're conspiring to bring value. You're conspiring to bring these connections to the table that should know one another, but not just because it's the Rolodex, it's the relationships that can be developed and grown because of that. And entire economies can change because of these connections. So are you putting it on hold, or when you started to look at it, was it like this engine that you were creating, like, oh my gosh, if I did this might take off, but it might go so far out of my control because of AI and the tech that's out there, that maybe we're creating something that couldn't be really stopped?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like as I pause and I'm patient, the things that I need and want, and it like before I got on the call, I just made a new logo for the conspiracy, and I actually really like it. And I did it in like 20 minutes before I got on this call, because that's where we are. Like the AI is just like, it's so fast, and these things are being created. So there's a component where like I never was so concerned that I had to have the tech company that was going to have the right CRM that's going to do what I needed to do. There are pieces of it that I still want to build.
Okay.
And those have to do with the communities. So when we talk about what the conspiracy is or was, I want it to eventually be a verb. Everything has the meaning that we give it. We chose to give it that meaning, but in the 1400s, the Latin root word meant to breathe together. And so us breathing life into the next innovations, us being able to exhale and breathe together, my interest in giving people ways for them to come back to themselves, to their sacred heart, home within here, and then be able to be valued for who they are, the connections that they make, the content that they create, all these things. So that's why when I talk about self-sovereign identity, I'm looking at putting together some of this tech with some other kind of like affiliate link, referral link tech, but that's been built on the blockchain.
Nice.
That would allow us to then see how people have made instructions, and we could even put an NFT play and earn component to it, where we incented the behavior of, you could give more benefit 7 levels deep, 7 levels wide. You could see what happens when we throw a party at Art Basel, or or in Davos or whatever. You can see what happens when people get in a room, and because of the connections that we created, what did that mean over the next year or so? The next 5 years, we'll be able to show the impact of that. But what I wanted to mention, and I'm glad you came back to the conspiracy, was what I used to say was that the conspiracy was a front. That even if tech company is one thing, it's a front. It was a front for a network of super connectors leveraging their relationships for good. Scaling the tech that would make humanity free and sovereign. So I've been meeting these companies for a very long time, and I feel like everything has already been solved. The problems have all been solved. These entrepreneurs, they just need the right resources. They need to know who's working on what. So anything that lets us own our media, our money, our infrastructure, our food, you name it. One of the things I'm working on right now is sovereign natural asset companies. I'm not going to go into what that is. It's a whole other thing. But part of what my interest is in with the conspiracy is eventually giving people ways to monetize themselves. In the next few years, we're going to be rewarded and valued for who we are in a very different way. And it'll be very simple and easy to do this. Like, there's already plenty of like people doing that. Like there's ways of this all happening. And so my interest is in, anytime you see my likeness, I get paid. Anytime you in something like these are all little things, like it's almost like dropping a pixel. Like my background was internet advertising. So it's like all these things are possible. It's all coming. I have another very big project that I'm working on that I will tell you about, but I'm going to pause because I've been doing all the talking. So I want to pause for a second.
No, I mean, I all the stuff that you're
in.
into is absolutely fascinating. I mean, it blows me away. And we are, you know, we're dealing for our audience. We're dealing with just a little bit of an audio delay, so we're trying to make the best of it with Zoom. But you know, at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast. You are infinitely interesting in so many ways. Not only do you as I said in your intro, like, you know, you just light up the screen when you get going and you get excited about what you're doing. It's just infectious. And that's what I've always been super, super interested in, is how you have, and I don't want to use the word dabble, because it applies that, you know, you're just kind of a little bit here, a little bit there. You actually have this amazing ability to go deep on a whole variety of topics. And that's what I think a good connector does, right? Is you find the great people to bring into your hemisphere, if you will, and you learn from them. The knowledge and the experience that you're picking up then allows you to kind of go and apply that and learn it in other capacities. And that experience becomes sort of your intellectual capital, right? That, you know, that connection capital that allows you to open additional doors and know these people for who they are, what they're doing, and then be able to say, okay, here's why you need to connect with these three people. And watching these three people or four people come together because you created it, it's like the magic party. All of a sudden things just blow up. And so I've been very, very impressed with everything that you've done. And the fact that, you know, quite honestly, with what you're doing with the conspiracy, pushing pause, taking a step back, looking at it and saying, okay, wait, before we move too far down that rabbit hole, let's make sure that we're doing it the way that makes sense. It protects and secures the network and creates even more value there. So because there's safety and security in these connections that you're creating within this network.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you about one of the projects I'm working on called The Last Casanova's Love Letters. and I'm moving towards me being the brand. And I never understood that, because for many, many, many reasons, I was unwilling to be seen, unwilling to lead. And it had to do a lot with the dynamics of how I was raised. And I'm now learning a lot so much about my brain and how it was actually molded in many ways to have thoughts that were actually not even mine. So partly what I've been doing is I've been pulling back and like seeing what's mine to do in this world. And I feel like my purpose is to reflect other people's goodness. Like eventually I will have a currency. It'll be called the goodness. Eventually it'll be vibration. It'll be energy. The Last Casanova's Love Letters is, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
That's the boat.
That's a boat. That's a boat with an engine on the outside.
That's awesome.
It's like sketchy poster. When you go to a party at night here and you're like, oh, I hope that they don't hit the rocks. So I had been doing an exercise, writing down what I was grateful for. And it was based on a book called The Path to Wealth. This woman's a serial entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur. And she would write it down, and she would write down what she was grateful for as if she had, what she was grateful for that she had, what she was grateful for that she did not yet have, but as if she had it. She would speak it out loud. You would put, you know, as much detail around it. Feeling changes DNA. I'm very big into like law of attraction and all these different components. And so I was doing that for years, and it would be like I would hand somebody the script and they would say things verbatim.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, I decided I was going to record them as videos. And what's happened over this time is I'm now like well over 1,000 videos. And the videos were meant for a couple of reasons. They were for me to be expressing my gratitudes. What happened was you can see how I path make my future. I say what's going to happen, and then it magically appears. So you can see me like in this manifestation mode. You also have the ability to see me react or respond to like, what am I consuming? What am I ingesting? You asked about like, how do I know about all these things? I'm a voracious learner. Yeah. I believe if we're curious and grateful, that's going to keep us young. Yeah. And I am consuming content all day, all night. I'm learning like gene keys. Like I'm learning right now I'm learning Thai. I just did 4 different dance intensives, like the amount of and all of these things make me learn more because my brain is having to process, my physical body is processing it different. So I feel like I'm just like in massive absorption mode. And
Well, one thing I want to point
in the
out there, right?
letters, what
The one thing I was just going to say is, when you turn that on with your brain, it's like opening up the bucket and saying, okay, fill me, right? I want more experience. I want more knowledge. I am ready, because so many of us live our lives closed off, feeling like there's not much more to life. And you found sort of that, I won't even call it the second gear. It's more like the sixth gear. You're kicking it in. And now you actually crave that in terms of knowledge and experience, and everything that is coming to you it really fuels you now in a different way than it might have even, 5 years ago. Right.
I feel very, very fortunate and lucky that I'm here, that I'm at this point in my life, that I'm not married. I never had kids. So like, there's reasons why I have a level of freedom that maybe other people don't. And because of that, I have been getting like PhDs in a number of subjects. And then I do have the ability to learn from like the people who are leading the next emerging technologies. So it's like, I'm constantly getting to see what's happening in the future. And then I have the ability to just kind of like break into, like, part of the reason why I'm in Asia is we are minimum 5 years advanced in terms of where the technology is. America is still trying to figure out how to regulate. They don't have to worry about like raising the money, building the thing. The population's already adopted the tech for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's a different level of like freedom and openness and innovation that I'm exposed to here. And so I'm going to go back to the last Casanova's love letters. Partly, I called myself the last Casanova because my sister and I are the last Casanovas in our family. And I'm thankful for Giacomo Casanova. That name means something, and people think of him as a great lover. Whether he spread whatever he spread, I'm here to also spread love in a new way. And for us to remember that we are loved and loved. It's for us to remember our sacred divinity and to have a level of self-love and confidence, knowing that we can reside in our sacred heart. And so that's what's happened as I've done these videos. I had a health issue. I've been having health issues. And a couple months ago, I was like, oh, wow, I might not leave Thailand. Like this might be it for me. Like, I might not leave this room. And I thought, you know what? I've actually succeeded, because the thing I wanted to show was a woman falling in love with herself. And that's what you can see over the course of this time. You can see me being kinder and kinder to myself, more and more gentle, more thankful, more present, more gracious, more kind. And I feel like my life is a gift. And that's not something I could say before, because I felt selfish or shameful or something.
Yeah.
Like, how could I ever say that? And so part of what I'm doing right now is I'm working with my AI it's crazy, because yesterday I pulled out 18 sites, 18 new companies that work with video in some way, where they'll take long form content and they'll edit it down to like marketable, cool, viral stuff.
Wow.
They'll redub it in 150 languages. Like the amount of stuff I was looking at yesterday, I'm like, oh my God. So my intention is to distill my learnings so that people can go and see, what was I doing on that day? Because I'm constantly learning something. And to be able to show them, I was in this course, I was listening to this thing, I was talking to this person, I was expanding myself in this way. And whether or not that actually truly helped me or it resonates with everyone, it's not for me to say. But there are golden juicy nuggets in there, and my life is very entertaining. And I happen to have like really cool characters, and it's a beautiful location. They're always beautiful locations. And it's like, I was never willing to put myself out there. And so that's going to be, we'll see. I'm going to be very, like, even for this podcast, I was like, oh, I'm going to set up my open collective site so that people can start donating, and I can and I started getting into that today. And I was like, all right, I can only get as far as I can get. I am patient, knowing that this is my gift to give. And partly what I'm wanting to create when I talk about the conspiracy, that this is a place for us to come and breathe together, and the conspiracy would have places for us to create our own altars to our higher selves. So all of the things that I'm like loving about myself, I have this all like kind of templated and set up in terms of like, what are the questions I'm asking myself, and what am I focused on, and what, and like, and all the things. It's just like a place for us to honor ourselves. And then I'm going to take the tech behind it, that SSID referral component piece, and I'm going to show people how to monetize their lives. And then we can all cross market if we want. We can all do like multiple revs. You know what I mean? Like if you look at secondary royalties and NFTs and stuff, they have the ability to split out on secondary purchases, how things go. Maybe 10% goes to this nonprofit. We'll have the ability to do all of that. And so I'm just being really patient and loving with myself and gentle, and knowing that at some point I will have a tribe. I'll have an audience like you do. At some point, my message will be out there. And my purpose has always been to shift the game and empower the people. And the way to do that is for us to understand that our sacred heart is where our home resides. And we have the ability to breathe together and rise up and thrive. I think the next 5-10 years is going to be hellacious. I think a lot of people are going to not survive. I think it's going to be very, very challenging for the vast majority of people who are unwilling to vision a future that works for them.
Yeah.
And so I just tell people, like, you got to keep your mind and your health and make it through, because on the other side, we're going to have a very different reality, I believe, one that would be more set for our mutual thriving.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. And I'm hoping that when I share my life, that it gives people the ability to love themselves more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you're working on this. I love that you have been inspired to, sort of document and track and let people have this insider glimpse, because I don't think a lot of, a lot of successful entrepreneurs, right? And you definitely are at that level, but I think there is this natural resistance for people to actually, show the peek behind the curtain, right? Be able to actually say, hey, some days are better than others. Some, challenges are tougher to overcome than, you might think they are, and be able to find those nuggets, both the positives and the negatives, grow and expand from them in such a way that I think is, I can't wait to see what you do with it, because it really is raw, true emotional value that I think you're putting on the table there. And to have that glimpse and say, look, on this day or in this month, this is what I was focused on. And, to see anybody who will see this video or will listen to this on the podcast, they can tell you are crazy passionate about what you do. And you are such an inspiration in so many ways, but this is going to take that to the next level. Right. And I think it's funny. I think your audience is already out there. People already love and respect and admire what you do. And they pay attention because they know wherever it's coming from, it isn't just because you can make money off of doing it. It's because you bring that authenticity and that heart to the table, which is something that I don't see a lot of entrepreneurs really embrace. And so I think, I don't know what the final product ends up looking like, but I can't wait to see it, because you're definitely going to inspire some folks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I've been like looking at, like, I started learning no code last year. I was like, okay, I'm going to build this whole thing. And I have a desire. I want it to be decentralized. I want my video content I want it to look a certain way, but we'll see. We'll see how I put it out there. But when you talk about the willingness to show everything, I mean, 2-3 days ago, I completed a liver flush where I was like up vomiting all night and then crying all morning. And it was brutal. Like I was like releasing, letting go of grief, trauma, like tough stuff. And I have even recorded all of my therapy sessions for the last like 2-3 years. Like anything I'm doing, I'm recording it. And there's a component where in some ways, like, I am petrified to be that seen or to make anything available, partly because of certain people in my life that are going to be very upset. But the reality is they're always upset with me anyway. It does not matter. Yeah. And I have kept myself small to keep them comfortable my whole life. And I'm just realizing how if my freedom is confronting for people, that's okay.
Yeah.
There will be people that have eyes to see and ears to hear, and they will see my divinity. And because they see that, my hope is that I just reflect the goodness in them. And that's my whole purpose here is so that we can all exhale and breathe together. And I feel like if I'm super, super transparent and I just show all of my stuff, then it's like, cool, I'm totally see-through at that point. Then I'm really light. Then I'm light, So
and the reality is that, people's issues or problems, we're caretakers as connectors, right? We always want to try and make everybody feel good and comfortable. And that's a positive, and it can be a huge negative, right? Because a lot of times we absorb all the bullshit that everybody else carries around in their life. And the challenge with that is, like you said, it weighs you down. It creates a heaviness. It creates levels of insecurity and a lot of disappointment. And so I think that what you'll experience when you do it, it's like, some folks may not necessarily love it, but that's their shit to deal with, not necessarily.
And then there's sometimes it's a short video. Sometimes it's a really long video. Fast forward. I don't care, because the reason I did it was for me. They were my love letters to myself. I happen to be showing them to you, but I created them for myself. It's interesting that you say that about the connectors, because I've often wondered, I wonder if we did a survey of connectors in the world. My guess is that a good portion of us have complex PTSD and had childhood trauma and are highly regulated to other people. Like whether we're empaths or whatever it is, we learned attunement for a reason. It makes us really good. It makes us chameleons. I have the ability to pick up on, I can predict people's needs. That's why I'm a good dancer now, because I'm so attuned to what do they need? And what that does is it has me outside of myself. And so this is I'm going to be 50 years old. This is a big deal for me to be learning to in the last few days, I have said no to multiple things that in the past I never could have said no to. A friend who's totally bedridden and needs to get to Bangkok for surgery. Someone else who needs lots of money for their daughter. Another and then a founder whose company, the technology, I have been using it for the last 2-3 months, and I so believe in it. And for me to just say no to all of these things, that I have to focus on, my energy needs to be contained and focused on me right now. This is words I couldn't say. I couldn't even fathom. How could I not be present for other people?
Well, it's super empowering, right? When you're able to finally do it. And I think you're exactly right. I personally have, all that baggage from my, past, and my, my dialogues that spin in my head. And of course, my upbringing had a big influence. And so it meant that as an entrepreneur, I was far too accommodating, far too worried about what other people think and how they might feel or how they might take a decision. And now I just don't give a crap, right? At the end of the day, I do care about the outcomes, right? Obviously, if I create a positive or I create a ripple, I want it to be a positive ripple, not a negative ripple. But sometimes you can't avoid some of your positive ripples being somebody else's negative, right? And you can't control that outcome. And when you create the ability for you to kind of distance yourself from their outcome is not your outcome, and you can embrace that fully, it is one of the most empowering things you'll ever experience. And I think, to me, at least from a connection perspective, it's made me a better connector. I don't feel like there's no baggage weighing me down. There's no other challenges that I have, would have faced in the past with self-doubt or sort of insecurity. Now I can just go head on. And I think I see it in you. Your energy comes across even on the Zoom call. I mean, it's just this is your path. This is what you should be doing right now, because this work is important and it's going to make a huge ass dent in the universe. So I'm excited to see what it is.
Thank you. You're the first person I've told about this.
Well, it's good. So hopefully everybody else responds.
Like nobody knows about this. It was a secret.
So we have breaking news on this podcast, is what you're saying. You saved it for me. I appreciate that.
My CTO, I don't even think he knows what it is I've been locked in here for. He's just I don't know, Nikki. I've got developers ready to go for us. Whenever you're ready to build, let me know. And I'm like, hold on a bit.
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
getting ready. Like for me to even like have chosen that, like the not good and all the limiting beliefs of like, oh my God, I had him come here from America. He's very happy that he's been dancing and he's loving his life. I'm curious about some of the things that you mentioned about the connection piece. I think that my choosing myself absolutely will make me a better connector for sure.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because like even on this call right now, I'm like sitting here biting my tongue because normally my day used to be planned in 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
So crazy. Back to back calls. I'd be on like 10, 12 calls a day.
Yep.
And then this is why I wanted to create Conspiracy, because it drove me crazy to be the gatekeeper and not be able to help people when I already knew who the right contacts were for them.
Sure.
And so I always ask people, what are you passionate about? What's on your wish list? And like, I'm sitting here like wanting to know from you because like, I'm like, how can I talk to you and not like lead you to something? Like, surely I need to know what's on your, like, we've been doing all the talking about me. And it's interesting for me to witness myself. It's like meta for me to like see myself. I'm being interviewed. It's about me. I'm like, no, how can I be of service? I support you with the right connection, the right resources. And you can always tell me another time too, because we're connected and it is my joy to be able to support people in doing that.
Well, I appreciate that. And we will definitely, I mean, I can't believe we haven't gotten on a call before now. So obviously with what you're working on and just the energy I think we both bring to the table, I think we absolutely need to schedule another time to do it and, just have a more direct conversation on that front. But it is about you because you're the guest and you're a rock star. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to do this. And I think you're going to,
I said no to everyone. Do you understand? Like, I had like the Minister of Finance for Thailand. I've had like all of these things. I was going to do a East-West Trade Alliance. I met all of the heads of the VCs in Singapore and this and that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to bridge America and here. And I'm going to take them on. I had everything. And I just one by one was like, no. And I stopped. I won't even have meetings anymore. I won't talk to anybody. So like the fact that
I feel very honored then.
Yeah, it is because, and also the fact that I'm talking about the last Casanova's love letters and like that. Oh my gosh, like I'm not talking about raising money for a tech company, and I'm talking about spirituality and like our mindset and all that kind of other stuff.
See, it's the ripple of work. What can I say? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I love it. Well, so let me do this because I know it's late over there, and I want to be respectful of your the time zone difference and just all the great stuff that you've shared. But I want to do something. I do it on every interview. Is I want to just ask you some specific Ripple connection questions, if you're okay with it. There are no gotchas. They're just a little bit more insightful. Dig into who Nicole Casanova is, right? But let me ask you this: what have you learned from failure?
What have I learned from failure? Failure gets me closer to what I want. Failure is just me having an understanding of what resonates more deeply, what's good for me in that moment. I've had a number of failures. I had 3 IPOs, and then I had like a decade of like startup after startup where it's like, oh my God, I'm like working all the time and I'm not making any money. And like, I'm now like, how many times have I almost gone bankrupt where like crazy, like probably 3 different times where I'd like get myself out of zero. And the reality is that every one of those, it's funny, I feel like almost every single thing I ever do in any realm gets me closer to knowing myself.
Yeah.
Whatever those outside experiences are, they all kind of like turn me around towards here to just having a better knowing of, okay, that's not necessarily the thing that, like today I was looking at, I don't know, DocuSign came up or something. It was like my whole business that I used to have and like how I would charge people and I would represent companies and it was so complex and stressful in many ways, like making connections with people. And I look at that now and I'm like, okay, you did that. It worked to some extent, but it didn't feel good. And so like, it's just information that leads me more towards, what do I want to experience? We're going to live at least another years with the technology. We have to enjoy ourselves. We have to pace ourselves. Got to be able to
Yeah,
thrive.
absolutely. No, I love those. I love that answer for sure. And, I think that, part of the path that we often find, failure puts us on, sometimes protects us from things that maybe we were headed down a path we shouldn't be. And now it's clear to me, where you are headed and what you're doing. It's the work you're supposed to be doing. And I love that. Let me ask you this question. I mean, this is given where you're living and what you're doing and sort of all this is kind of a loaded question, but where do you find, as an entrepreneur, your inspiration?
Maybe I'll give you videos that you can include in this, and I'll show you the opposite side of the beach here. And you'll see there's an area where like I sit in the water for like sometimes 2 to 4 hours a day.
Wow.
I just sit in the water there. like where do I find inspiration? Generally it's outside. I lived in Boulder, Colorado for well over 20 years, and I was constantly on a trail. In fact, one of the talks I do, it speaks about how like the act of hiking, it's diffuse awareness. I'm looking for like mountain lions, and snakes, and where am I going to trip? And and I'm processing, what is it that I want to contemplate today? And what's the next idea? And so there's something about walking and movement that is a great meditation and place for me to generate new ideas, or being in the water. I also have a bathtub out on the water here. So I feel like being in the water is a big deal, or being in nature and the movement, the cadence, yeah.
I love it. Well, yeah. If you want to send me the video, I'd love to show our viewers where you're getting that inspiration in the water. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
What's the best thing in your opinion about being an entrepreneur?
Best thing about being an entrepreneur. I had 3 things that came up. It was like creativity, self-expression, and sovereignty.
Yeah.
Like there's a level of autonomy. If it's gonna fail, it's gonna fail. I'm gonna go down with this boat, whatever. It's my choosing. And the ownership of my life and my time. I have had jobs again in recent years, and it is, I'm sure I could have a job in a healthy environment, and I probably would really love it if I was working with people that were like super motivated and self-aware, and I'm sure I could absolutely love it. And there's a component where now 20 something years of me being an entrepreneur, or like even when I had jobs, I was in startups. So it's like, how many jobs did I have within that startup? Like you're given a level of autonomy that is very, very different than being in very large corporations, which I have done that as well. And I am I'm a rule breaker. I'm like, if I see something that needs to be fixed, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness. I know I'm a salesperson, so it's like I like to get things done, make magic happen. And I feel like entrepreneurship is the fastest way to enlightenment as well. It is the fastest way for us to know ourselves, because every fear, every upset, so many things will show up. And especially if you're the founder who's having to deal with investors, and you have to have your game face on, you have to have this like persona for your team. And like, there's a level of willingness and self-care and like kindness that is critical.
I love that.
Because I've been the entrepreneur, like many of us, where just like I would be up all night grinding my teeth, and that like urgency and the need to, it's tough, it's super, super stressful. And I would say just like do everything you can to be in communities with other founders as well, because somebody needs to know what you're going through.
Great point.
It is very challenging to be your own, the only person that's carrying all the weight for everyone, when you have to have like, oh, it's all good. And it is, there's a reason why entrepreneurs commit suicide, why we have such high levels of depression and you have to be crazy. there is a level of like, whether I have narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder, or whatever things I might run, because I've been around it for a long time, I'm sure I must run some of it as well. There is a level of insanity and crazy that is needed to be an entrepreneur, because you have to believe in what does not exist. You have to be so bought into your idea and willing to evangelize it and advocate for its creation when other people don't yet see it. And you have to stay true to that vision. It's a lonely path. And so that's my thing is be in a mastermind, be with other founders. If you're raising money, be with ones that are also raising, like, do what you can to make life easy.
Excellent answer. Yeah. I mean, and we got to stick together as entrepreneurs, right? We need to be there to support one another and build those networks and create those connections, because it is a very isolating experience in a lot of ways. And, you know, we're all, as entrepreneurs, we're supposed to be the ones with the answers, and the vast majority of us don't have them. We're just figuring it out as we, you know, we're building the plane as we fly it. So it can be super challenging. So I love your take on that. It's really great. What, if you were to give one piece of advice to anybody who might see this, you know, or listen to this podcast or see this video, what would that be?
The first answer that came to mind was love yourself more. Whatever you're doing today to acknowledge yourself, take note of it. Like maybe you made a delicious, healthy breakfast for yourself. Like, commend yourself, acknowledge, like, oh, honey, baby, I love you. Like, look what we've done today. We're moving on a path towards wellness. Or like, I think it's so easy to just like berate ourselves and, oh, what did you get done today? How many Twitter people, or like how far are you on your content strategy, or what, like let me just shame you into you didn't do it. Like, an entrepreneur, it's all about never enough. Like, I haven't done enough.
It's absolutely true.
I would say acknowledge how you are loving yourself, and love yourself more tomorrow. So like, what is it? What little itty bitty thing can I do that's an act of kindness for myself, so that I start working the muscle of knowing that I'm safe, and that like the only thing I have to worry about is how does this feel? How does my heart feel? Because that's the thing that's going to carry us.
That's a beautiful answer.
I'm
your answers.
I'm in this mode right now. You're catching me in the mode.
I mean, yeah, you're crushing it. Well, okay, so I'll ask you one additional question, and I've actually got two, but they're pretty short. But what in your opinion, based on your experience now and what you've gone through, and the environment that you're in, what's the most important thing in life?
My answer is always going to be connection.
It's going to be connection. Yeah.
And when I say connection, it's connection to a lot of things, right? So it's connection to my sacred heart, connection to my breath. Can I take a deep breath in and exhale fully? Am I connected to source? Can I actually hear and listen? Can I get the downloads because I've created enough stillness and space to be able to hear what's mine to do? Am I connected to the earth and nature and the environment? Notice I've gone through like 4 or 5 things. I haven't even yet said connected to other people. And at the end of the day, like, I'm all about, I thrive on meeting new people. Like, when I thought about, oh my God, I probably meet minimum 1,000 new people a year, which is a crazy thing that like somehow my brain recognizes who meets, like I can pattern match and all that. And all of that internal connection, it's only important when we connect here first. We're all extensions of each other, right? Like, we're all the same energy reflected outside. It's all my thought reflected outside. And so being able to align with my truth and my good feeling is going to make for all of the best connections. The right people will always cross my path. Some of the things that I say is that my life gets better every day. Every day my life gets better.
Oh, I love that.
Last like year or so, I get better every day. Every day I get better. And I say this all the time, and I just look for examples of it. I look for the evidence of how it's getting better every day.
Nicole, that's awesome. Okay, last 2 questions. What does the ripple effect mean to you?
our breath, my voice, our actions, the words we speak, all of these things have impact that are exponential and potentially unknown to us, yet on like the grand, when you said it, the thing I'm thinking of is the butterfly effect, and like what happens when like we are all so interconnected, and the smallest little thing. And a friend said this the other day. She was like, you need to start speaking. You need to get this stuff out, because people need to hear that. They need to be able to understand, because it will impact someone. Someone will make one change. They'll hear one thing, and it'll be enough, and that will be beneficial in redirecting someone towards the thing that they wanted to do most, or leaving the relationship that didn't serve them, or whatever it is. And I think I don't give myself enough credit that I might have something to convey that's going to be worthwhile. And the truth is, we all do. You know, we all can have a ripple effect.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I can tell from just being on the sidelines watching you, you've created a good number of ripples for not only the organizations that you've gone out and, built relationships with, but the entrepreneurs, the super connectors, but also just in seeing and hearing you today, you've created a ripple for yourself and what you're doing, and taking control and putting that emphasis on yourself. And I'm so proud to know you. I'm so inspired by where you're going and what you're doing. I was always impressed by you, but I'm really inspired by, the life you're living and the direction you're headed. And it's going to be great to watch that adventure unfold. So let me finish with one question. And this is, it's a question that ties to the ripple effect, but what ripple can I be creating for you?
Even the words that you just said was a big deal for me. I'm being recorded, so I'm like, okay, let me be present. But there's a part of me that wants to just like ground. This is something I do quite often, is I ground system. That these are data points of me being acknowledged for my worthiness, for my goodness. What does that feel like, taking that in? So thank you. And that is, what can you do to, at some point when I'm ready to put my stuff out there, because I decided instead of me stressing myself out, like, oh, I don't post, I have resistance to posting on social.
Sure.
And so like there's certain things that I know I need to be doing, but I'm like, I just don't want to do it. And the algorithm is not going to like me, because I'm multidimensional and I don't talk about just one thing. I'm about many things.
Yeah.
And yet what I decided was that I'm one of the most networked people in the world. And so when I do go to create this, what I'm interested in doing is going out to all the people that I know that all have their networks and stuff. And I want them to gift it to other people that they think it would be valuable for. And it'll be set up with some dollar amount. It's possible that there will be like nonprofits or other things that it might help at the same time. But one of the things I'm very interested in doing as well is I want people to invest in me and my life. And I want us to breathe together. I want my thriving to support them. So when I talk about that technology that will be basically rev shares on all the things I recommend, or this or that, or I'm going to monetize my life. I want people to invest in me, and then I'm going to give them a rev share on everything. Like, I want people to make money. I would like to give a percentage of every single thing that I make to all the people that invest in me. Like, we should be, and I get to be involved in a lot of big, like, cool things. So that's my ask is, when I'm ready, like, I want to give it to people like you and then say, hey, this is my friend Nicole. She's doing something cool. If you're interested, share this and join my tribe.
Done. That's it. That's an easy ask.
Fun. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be part of the, believe me, when I come in through immigration, I'm like, maybe I should use my other company name, Casanova Ventures. I don't know if because it's a whole thing. It's like, do I need to be explaining in another language with experience?
Could get lost in translation. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, totally.
Well, let me just make it easy for now.
I love it. Well, I would be happy to ripple that out for you. And I am so grateful to know you. I would love to jump back on a call where we just kind of riff and brainstorm, so we will definitely get that scheduled. But, for my audience, just let them know how you would like them to follow you. I know you said, hey, I don't like necessarily social, but what's the best places for them to plug in?
It's so interesting. It's so interesting because one of the things I wanted to complete today was I wanted to change the landing page. I've had people like, you don't even have, right now my landing page goes to like, choose. You're either going to go invest in my tech company and give me $10 million or something else. And it's like, that's not relevant anymore. So like a whole Linktree bio thing, it's on its way.
Okay.
And in that, there will be a link to be able to connect with me. And then there will be a link to this open collective page where you'll be able to donate and be able to become a member of the conspiracy. So it's coming. I haven't built that yet, but if I were to tell you a page to go to that will have it, and I'll send you this link after.
Okay.
It's casanovaventures.com/more-411.
Okay.
And that's kind of like, it's a landing page that talks about like everything. And in that page, it has everything. It has all my socials. It has Instagram and TikTok and all the different ways.
Excellent.
You can find me.
Okay. And we'll put a few of those links into the show notes and obviously have them up on some graphics on the video, but
to get that page done. It's gonna be so good.
See, there's the slight nudge. There you go. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for the time today. You are amazing, and you're a very, very inspiring person. And I'm so grateful to have you in my network. And I can't wait to do some more connecting with you and find some avenues for us to support one another, because we need to. I mean, there's some ripples out there for us to create for one another. But for my audience, thanks for watching this great episode. Definitely check out Nicole and her work. I mean, she's amazing. So obviously, if you've listened to her speak, you're going to be intrigued. You're going to want to see what comes next with the Casanova love letters. That's going to be awesome.
The last Casanova love letters.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, you guys, we'll be back again with another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast very soon. But until then, Nicole, ripple on.